What's up, YouTube? This is James back again. More Edison content, joined by Keegan as always or as usual.
What's up, guys?
And we are ranking some side deck cards. Side decking is difficult even for good players, and especially for newer players in Edison format. I think it can be confusing because there's a lot of viable decks, and each of those decks sort of have their own sideboard configurations against all the other decks, if that makes sense. So there might be fringe cards that are only really sided in one deck or only really sided against one deck.
Exactly.
And yeah,
Exactly. Let's hop right in. We've got our tiers here. We've got super ultra based, as coined by famed duelist MMF. We've got based regular, we've got mid, we've got cap, and we've got E, which is the final tier, obviously. Some of these cards are going to be excellent. They're going to excel in multiple strategies against multiple strategies. And some of these cards are going to be pretty narrow. But all of these cards do see play to some extent in the Edison format. Why don't we start
yeah,
things off? What's up?
well, let's to be completely upfront, just how we're ranking these, we kind of have no idea. I mean, I think some of them will end up where they're at based on sort of power, others in versatility, and even very narrow cards that just completely blow out one matchup, we might put pretty high. So we're just gonna do it as we go, and we'll talk about it as we go.
Yeah, let's run it. Mask of Restrict. I think this is a really good hallmark of either mid or based, low based or high mid. This card's
I think it's
fantastic, right?
I think it's based, yeah, just because a lot of decks can side it. Basically, any decks that aren't playing their own tributes, and even a lot that are, just use it as kind of a silver bullet floodgate against frogs, which otherwise can be a pretty oppressive deck. And in a lot of ways, this card like makes the frog matchup winnable for some other kind of lower tier decks.
Agreed. I think it is. It's one of those silver bullet type cards in the matchup that you want it, which is frogs. It's fantastic. In other matchups, it's a blank. I mean, of course, you can stop some Icarus attack, but is that really something you want against Blackwings? No, not really. So, I mean, it's a silver bullet, pretty strong in its matchup, and that's that. Not every deck can cite it.
Yeah,
Obviously, Caius decks don't really want this type of effect, but it's pretty
drawing
good.
multiples is not great, but yeah, even then, you're if they use an MST or dust on it, you just have the second one. So
Not too bad, yeah. Next up, we've got. Let's jump to the bottom here. Vanity's Fiend.
okay, jumping around.
I think the
Um,
Vanity's Fiend is based, but it's more
Yeah, I think it's
based.
about the same as Mask of Restrict. I mean, similar matchups also, although Vanity's Fiend can also get brought in against Plant, which um, Restrict doesn't usually, and other types of combo decks that aren't as tribute summon reliant.
I like Vanity's Fiend more
Um,
than Mask of Restrict in its strength against dragons. I think dragons do struggle
for
with this
sure.
card, and that's a great home. I think it's a good high based type card. Next up, Consecrated Light. I think this card is cap. Honestly,
Yeah, I think it's pretty big cap. In the fairy deck, we've been siding it, and I think it's pretty good there, but even there, it does its job of really slowing down Blackwings and dark based decks. But I feel like in 2010, a lot of people would just side it randomly against Blackwings or dark based decks, and
that's
they
not
just
very
have a lot
good.
of removal. They have Icarus. They
They can
just
just
deal
set a
with it.
monster, yeah. I don't think this deck is good if it's not a fairy themed deck. I think it's great with the heralds. It's great when you can tutor it with Shining Angel. Otherwise, don't put it in your deck. It's not very strong.
Yeah,
Next
even
up,
in that deck, it's so narrow that.
yeah, it's not great. Mirror of Oaths, I also believe is cap. Uh, you're only siding this against Gladiator Beasts, and you're letting them get their effects off, letting them attack you for this to even do anything. It's kind of
Right. It
sus.
doesn't even negate the effect. I mean, people might have thought to side against Rescue Cat, but also it's like Rescue Cat and Monk are two cards of their deck, so I don't even think it's that good there.
Yeah, big mid, kind of a. It's
Might
narrow.
even drop down to E. Might even drop down to E. We'll see how
Yeah,
how
it's
it
either the
evolves.
last one in cap or the highest in E. We'll see. We'll see. DD Crow. I think this is a super ultra based card.
Yeah,
No cap.
a ton of decks can side it just as like a generic hand trap. It's really the only one that exists in the format.
Besides Heralds and Honest,
So
of course, and Clue to
yeah,
some degree.
great against plants. Really, really just plants and zombie decks and any type of thing like that. But like
Any Avarice
even
decks, any
Yeah,
Frogs, to some degree, can get screwed by this card occasionally.
yeah, it's not like you like accidentally end up siding in a card, but if somehow you did or you were main decking one, it has applications against Gladiator Beast or Blackwing or any of these decks. I mean, every deck touches the graveyard in some deck way,
Yeah,
basically.
if someone was to be main decking a DD Crow on accident, and they would accidentally leave it in game two against Machinas, for example, you could
They forgot to
snag a
side it out from
fortress.
the previous round,
Yeah, they forgot to
and
set it
they
up for the previous
showed up
round.
the next
Not
round.
that this has ever happened to anyone, but if they
Right.
did, it could snag a Machina fortress. It could snag a
Correct.
not that that's
Hypothetical tier, might add.
hypothetical. Needle Ceiling, I think this is pretty cap. It's not a great card. Honestly, it might even be E
Pretty
tier.
narrow.
I don't even think
Yeah,
I
pretty
can't even think
narrow.
of a deck that you'd want to bring this in against. Maybe
I
the
think there was a
Dandelion
little while
deck.
I was experimenting with siding it in decks that also set their own monsters and against Dandelion or against Duplox. You can use it to break up that. But yeah, pretty bad, honestly.
Fairly weak card. Lightning Vortex. This one is a little bit interesting for me. I want to put this one in super ultra based, but I don't think it's quite there. I do think it's worse than
In in
Vanity's Fiend.
spirit, in spirit, maybe based. In reality, I would say mid. There really aren't that many decks that can side it, and yeah, I mean, it just does one thing. Like I don't really know what to say. It just does
It's
one
a
thing,
sweeper.
and you need to have discard fodder, and
Yeah.
it's good. It is
It
good. I mean, because a
it's
lot of the decks
good.
that do side it because they struggle with cards like Vanity's Fiend.
Yeah.
But
It
I don't
is a
know if
bit more
you,
narrow than cards like Vanity's Fiend. And
and I don't know how often you're siding multiple as well. It's usually just
again,
like one vortex.
also true. It's usually like 1, 2 at most. Um
Yeah.
Next up, Gravity Bind. I think this card's really powerful. I'm gonna put it high mid tier. Obviously, the reason I'm putting it high mid tier is because there are so few decks in this format that could even play this card. But if you can play this card, it's stupid strong. Basically,
Tyler, what decks are you siding gravity binding? Sorry, I called you
oh,
Tyler.
this is getting edited out. This is getting. I'm just kidding. I just What are you siding it in? Well, for example, the Immortal Bushi, which we've done a video on. Make sure and go check that out.
True.
Also,
True.
you could side it in X Sabers. You could side it in any sort of deck that plays Trap Stun, Royal Decree. You could side it in Lightsworn. I've seen it played in, decks that can switch it
Gravity
on and
bind
off.
Lightsworn. I didn't know that was
There's a lot of
an option.
really interesting options you can do in Lightsworn
Huh.
regarding floodgates and then switching them on and off using with the use of Royal Decree or, you know, Ryko Lila, that sort of thing. Um, but anyway, in any case, if you can side this card in your wetlands deck, whatever it is, it is a strong card, but obviously it can't really be sided in much. And for that reason, it's probably worse than Lightning Vortex because I think Lightning Vortex it's more applicable than Gravity Bind. Blackwing Sirocco as a sideboard card. What are your thoughts on this, James?
Honestly, Cap, kind of similar to Consecrated. Like, I think it's first of all, yeah, I think like the point of Blackwing Sirocco is to bring against Blackwings, and you boost it up by boosting off their monsters, and they can't collude over it. But the fact is that a lot of decks that when they're siding against Blackwings, they don't want to bring in additional normal summons. And
Exactly.
like if you have other dark support, I think it's pretty decent. Like if you don't have a lot of strong, like since it is basically a level 4 monster that you can normal summon, like beaters kind of like it's pretty good. I have even on occasion when I've sided this card have brought it in against Gladiator Beast matchup. It has happened. Um, but even against Blackwing, I just think they can kind of deal with it
I'm
even in the
gonna
best case.
go against the grain a little bit here. I think it's mid. I think it's actually pretty good. I've had a lot of success with this card in the sideboard.
Wow. Already some
I do
controversy.
agree with you that the normal summon is uh is a big issue with siding this card, and there's generally something better you can be doing. But given its versatility, given that it's a strong normal summonable beater that you can bring in a variety of matchups, it's also pretty decent against the Vayu matchup, which is growing in popularity thanks to yours truly, James. So I think it's not too bad. I think you can do better, but I do not think it is quite cap. It's probably the bottom of mid.
Sure.
Dust Tornado,
Okay.
super ultra based. Not much needs to be
That's
said about Dust
Neo.
Tornado.
I was arguing the other day that Book of Moon is one of the all-time great cards just across, Yu-Gi-Oh history, there's really never been a point that Book of Moon has been like very bad, unplayable card.
This is
But
true.
honestly, Dust Tornado is probably up there as well, especially as a side deck card. I mean, people have been citing Dust Tornado since 2002, 2003, whenever it came out. I don't know, before
Pharaoh's
it came out.
Servant. Pharaoh's Servant.
Um,
Exactly.
and they were probably proxying it, getting ready for it to come out, hoping for one day Dust Tornado to get released.
I mean,
But yeah, I mean,
Typhoon
it
was
just
at 3
nukes
when it came
the.
out, so they didn't really play it. But I mean, that's we don't need to talk about
Doesn't
that.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Um,
It doesn't matter.
It just nukes. It just nukes stuff. Any floodgate.
um, you know, anything.
Yeah, great card. It comes in against other sideboard cards. Next up, Breaker. I think this card is cap. I really want it to be good, but it just is not. I've not found a home for it. I've not found a deck that even
I
wants
would
that
put
type of
it. I
effect.
would put it high cap because I think that there are decks that it is. I think we just haven't found the right deck. I think it's better than Consecrated Light. I think it's going to be
That's
top of
true.
cap.
That's true. It'll probably be top of cap. This has a higher
I have
ceiling.
been messing around with it in Lightsworn because it can kill the Light Imprisoning Mirror. I think at times when Lightsworn was like a much more dominant force in the meta, that was a card that people sided. But maybe
Yeah.
there's better stuff in this format.
The normal summon, same issue with Sirocco. It's a similar issue. The normal summon, and then a lot of the decks where you'd want this, the back row heavy decks, they just kind of laugh at it. You play it against Glads, they chariot you, they attack, they ping off it. It's the worst. It's the worst feeling in the world. Let's go ahead and move into what I think is probably the strongest card on this list, Cyber Dragon. In
I
Edison
have
format.
no complaints. No
Yeah.
complaints. Like it's
Wow.
really like almost. I'm struggling to think right now of a deck that could not that like really like there might be decks that it might be kind of funky in, but like, can you think of any decks that it's like actively
The only deck
very bad
the
design?
only deck that I can think of that I would not put Cyber Dragon in the side deck of is Dragons because of Totem Dragon.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
But every other deck
Or
in
like
the
burn.
format,
You know, like
even Burn, I
even
think
burn.
Cyber Dragon is
Yeah.
fantastic. We were playing it in the Volcanic Burn deck.
You're
Check
right.
that video out. Let us know what you think. But yeah, also Cyber Dragon, fantastic. You can put it in anything. It doesn't use your normal summon. It makes Chimera Tech.
List off the good matchups.
Oh
right
my
now.
goodness, it's a light monster. It comes in against Glads. It comes in against Blackwings, Machina. It comes in against X Sabers. You could bring it in against dragons. You could bring. I mean, I don't know why you would, but you could, and it'd be fine. You know, you could bring it in against just about any deck. It comes in against plants.
Even the Raiko Kai's type decks, if you're going second, it's just kind of a simple one for one removal that doesn't use your normal summon because you can special it, attack into the hand. It also, doesn't you get around the 50-50 of attacking into a Raiko or hamster,
Absolutely.
and you run over both, and then you're free to do whatever you want with normal summon the rest of the turn.
Great stats 2100, 1600, walls a lot of stuff out on both sides, even if it gets booked. Fantastic card. There's not much more to be said about it that you guys can't figure out by playing with the card yourself. Dark Ruler Hades. I've seen this played in some Frog decks, but it's honestly an E tier card. I'm just going to throw it there. We don't really need to talk about it too much. It does have some unique applications in the Frog Mirror where it negates Treeborn Frog permanently. But other than that,
I've never seen this card played.
yeah, I've seen it played in like one or two different decks, and it's always been plants or frogs, and those decks are not too great to begin with, as one might say. Next up, Doomcaliber Knight. I think this card is mid. I think it's around same area as Sirocco, maybe a little better.
Yeah,
Probably
I think
better
it's
than
a little better, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I think it just suffers from a problem of like kind of narrowness. Like there aren't that many matchups that it's like super super good in, and then the decks that want to be siding against those matchups don't really have a lot of slots for additional normal summons or like beaters.
Exactly. It's a rare inclusion, but when you do include it, it's probably because you have a slight weakness to Gladiator Beasts. That's the matchup where it really excels.
It's definitely strong. It's kind of a weird card because it's like no one would deny that it like can really shut down a board and run away with the game, but like just hasn't really performed.
Yeah, it hasn't. Let's just throw this D-Prison up in Super Ultra Based. This card's often main deck includable in this format. It's a fantastic card.
Yeah, these cards are a card like this is a little bit tricky because it's like usually cards that want to run it would just main it, but then like you can side another couple copies for Glads or like I don't know. It's like it's good against dragons too. You know, you can just side it as kind of like a generic additional removal if you need to rotate out something like a Book of Moon.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
I
think
might even put it
it's
at the
fantastic.
top of regular based, but it's hard to judge with something like this because it's like basically a shoe-in main deck inclusion in the first place.
I think with Deep Prison, I think it's gotta be included in Super Ultra Base just because of the way the positioning in the meta right now. I think it's fantastic against Blackwings. It's fantastic against fairies, dragons, and it's also pretty good against Vayu. And those are some of the best decks in the
Yeah,
format. So if you're gonna include this deck in your 55, you can't really go wrong with it. Or this
it
card
just
in
feels
your.
like cheating, you know? It's like we didn't include bottomless on this list,
Yeah, exactly. And
even though some decks might side that if they're not maining it. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, Deeper is obviously a great card,
yeah,
and I mean, yeah, like just as good as any of these other cards in the top
yeah.
tier.
Jinzo. I think Jinzo's slept on a bit. I think Jinzo's pretty
I would
based.
agree. I would agree. Jinzo honorary based.
Honorary based
Is
for
it better
sure.
than any of these other cards? I don't know.
It's
But yeah,
probably better
actually,
than
I'm
Vortex,
gonna
yeah.
put Jinzo up there. I mean, I think Jinzo is pretty close to a staple in the side of frogs, I would say.
Yeah. And
Like
the
actual frog monarch.
the only reason it wouldn't be is because of Rivalry of the Warlords and the next card, Mobius, the Frost Monarch. I think Mobius is the only reason Jinzo isn't straight up staple in those decks. Um,
Sure. I
it is
mean,
a
the
tough
good thing
spot
about
to fight
Jinzo,
for.
it's good to talk about these two together, but yeah, I mean, Mobius also has the advantage. Like I've cited like Soul Exchange Mobius packages and other kind of like Raikokaios type decks, but Jinzo can't get charioted, which is pretty huge. So
It
I think
is.
it's great in any like frog or plant type deck,
Yeah,
but Mobius is
love
just
Jinzo.
a house.
Both great cards, both based. DD Warrior Lady, I think it's pretty mid. I mean, most of the normal summon like 4-star like removal guys, they're all right. If you need that type effect, like if you need an extra little something, then they're all right. But as a sideboard card, like when are you really citing this? You know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah, it's often just a one or two of inclusion. Like I think I was citing it maybe in the hero deck that I used for a while. Like, and I mean if you're playing warrior support, it can be pretty good. We used it in the Bushi deck, obviously.
I think
It
it's
has its niche, but
yeah, it's not so bad as a sideboard card in Glad's. Actually, I think Glad's struggle with
I agree with
strong
you. Yeah,
monsters,
sure.
and you're already playing Rhoda, so it just gives you like a nice little removal target you can grab.
I
Uh,
like the mind game where I mean in game two and three I feel like they're more likely to set something like a Sagan or Dandelion turn one, hoping to bait you out. But you can just run through that with the warrior lady.
exactly. It's a nice little snag on a monster you'd
All
like to
right.
remove. Messenger of Peace, strong card, strong card. Where to put it though?
What are you siding it in? I'm
Mm,
not super familiar with this card.
this card comes in like any deck where you need to buy time, any deck where you need to prevent attacks. I think some frog decks can play it.
Side it to stop attack.
Plants can play it. If you're having issues with Blackwings, Gladiator Beasts, this is the card for you. I think it's a fantastic card. It's a fantastic card because unlike cards like Gravity Bind or Level Limit Area B, you can basically choose when to switch it off. So you can chill behind it for a little while, build up your resources, and then when you're ready to make a power play, you can decide not to pay the life points and then activate it. I haven't played much with this card. It's only in a few of my lists in my builder, but I am scared of it. It's also incredible against dragons. It's like one of the best cards against dragons that you could play. So I don't know. Where would you put it? Probably the top of mid for me.
I would just put it right next to Gravity Bind. I mean,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, and I think Doomcaliber's got to go below those. I think it is
Yeah,
worse than
sure.
these
I think
effects,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah. If your deck can play Messenger of Peace, it probably should. That's just kind of where it's at. Neo-spacian Grand Mole. Have you had a lot of success with this card?
Um, I'm gonna say no, but I also
Yeah.
feel like it's about as good as DD Warrior Lady.
I think it's worse. I think it's like noticeably worse because
I mean, it's
unlike
not a
it,
warrior.
it's also not a light. I mean, not that that matters in this format, but if your deck plays Honest or, you know, Soul of Purity and Light, for example, you know. But I don't think Gramel's like I would put it in cap tier. It's like one of those cards you want it to be good. It's such a cool like little unique card, but no deck plays it. Oftentimes you're just bouncing a Caius. You're letting them reuse it. It's not great removal. I've just It puts you in weird situations a lot of the
I
time.
really would like it to be good.
I would too. It's just as far as I've.
Maybe we're underrating a little bit. Maybe in like a GB side deck, it could be pretty good. Neither of us play GB that much.
That's true. Neither of us do play that. That's We'll put it either at the bottom of mid or at the top of cap. We'll let you guys decide on that one. The next one we have to talk about in tandem, I believe, to some degree, and that's King Tiger and Burden of the Mighty. I'm gonna put King Tiger in super ultra based, and Burden of the Mighty is just gonna be it's gonna be mid, but in tandem with King Tiger, it's gonna be coming in a lot of the time. King Tiger stops a lot of strategies, just a lot of strategies right out of the
Yeah.
gate. You summon it, and most decks, if they're trying to synchro, they can't really function. It's a fantastic card. What do you think?
I think that I have either main deck this card or I don't really play it in this format. So I have a hard time imagining what decks I would side again that I'm not maining in.
I have it in the sideboard of my Gladiator Beast deck, and it honestly should just be in the
Yeah,
main deck.
okay.
So the reason it's in super ultra based is because it's like another one of those like deep prison. You probably should just be main decking it cards, but if you do side deck it with Burden of the Mighty, it's a strong inclusion. If your deck can support it, it's really good. Shuts off a lot of strategies. Zombie
Sure.
Worlds. I mean, it's the same as Mask of Restrict, but like way more narrow.
I would probably put it like either above Burden or somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
I mean, being a spell, and if you have any way of taking advantage of the zombie thing. Also, unlike Mask of Restrict, you can still tribute for non-tribute summons, so if that's ever anything you're trying to do. And I mean, it is pretty good against dragons, right? I
Yeah,
feel like
it's
it's
a
good.
house. It's a house against dragons, but it doesn't prevent enemy controller, which I think is
Yeah,
one of the kind of like
and
contentious parts of
substitute.
it. Yeah, does not prevent substitute, and that's clearly annoying. I mean, yeah, and if you are
Yeah,
playing
it's
a
like if
dragon
you want.
strategy, you can't really play it, or if you're playing a tribal strategy like that plays Icarus or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Icarus would be the most obvious card that Restrict shuts off, so you might look for something else. But then Zombie World also shuts that off coincidentally. But yeah, I mean, zombie decks obviously can side it, maybe even main it. Um, and I think dragons would have a hard time dealing with it. So I think it's actually pretty strong. Maybe even we're ranking it too low given
Yeah,
how
it's
good it could
possible
be.
it's somewhere up here with the
Yeah,
vortex
sure.
fam. Yeah, that's possible. My body has a shield. We haven't really explored this card. I've never played it in this format yet.
Oh, I mean, I've definitely used this card. I've used it in Lightsworn. I've used it. I think my Body of the Shield is actually pretty good. The only problem is it often ends up competing with something like Dust Tornado, which often ends up beating it out. But it is
Absolutely.
faster,
It is
and
faster.
like
It lets you shove
with the
monsters into
stuff
play.
like Icarus Attack, you can use it on the chain rather than like have to hit it preemptively. I would probably put it, yeah, like next to Zombie World. Honestly, like I think it's pretty good. It just there's only a few decks I'd play it in, but like even dragons could side it. I don't think that would be bad.
I
There's
like it as a
chances
way
for
to
it to hit oppression sometimes.
uh yes, if your red meta's already in play, yes. I think I like it mostly for its ability to negate monster effects. I think this being able
Yeah,
to
true.
negate Judgment Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, and Raikou if it's not during the damage step, yeah. I really like it in those instances. The 1,500 life points is hefty, but if you can support it, if you're
Yeah.
the aggressor, like dragons or for example, or fairies, it's a fantastic card. Next up, Threatening Roar. Uh, I have very little experience with this card outside of Lightsworn. I know frogs can play it, but it's probably
I
pretty
mean,
cap.
I would honestly probably, I was gonna say regular base, to be honest, because
Ooh, that's really?
this is a big differential.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing is that as far as that fish deck goes, it's one of the only like I don't even think that it's that good against them, but if you're playing a deck like Lightsworn or Plants or something that can stabilize with like a Black Rose Dragon or like have their own mass removal, I think Threatening Roar is a pretty good card to side if you're worried about facing fish. And sometimes you can build your side in such a way that you have everything covered, but not really that. And like, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's one of the better cards against that deck,
I
and
think it's
that
a
deck is
little
kind of hard
too.
to side against.
That's true. I think it is a little too narrow. I think in
All right,
specifically Lightsworn, it is quite based. I'm okay to put it in based.
all right. Let's drop it down. Let's drop it down.
We'll put it high mid. I think that's a good.
I wouldn't. No, I changed my mind. Put it next to Doomcaliber.
Next to Doomcaliber? Alright. I think it is a little too narrow. I don't think there's very many decks that can take advantage of it. I think in Lightsworn it is very based. It is one of the better cards you can play in Lightsworn. But certain other strategies, maybe Gladiators could actually take advantage of it. I don't know. We haven't really
They probably
experimented
play
with it.
Wabaku, but you could use that as an
Oh yeah.
interchangeable Wabaku threatening roar slot.
Yeah, this is basically covering both Wabaku and Threatening Roar. Trap Stun. Trap Stun.
It doesn't really make much sense, but well, I guess it's hard to make the argument that Trapstone is really that much weaker than my body's shield.
Yep,
Like,
that's true. This is
um,
true. I think my body's slightly better because it can get the monster effects. But
I don't know. I think Trapstone is a pretty like if you're not maining it, which that's a whole other discussion, but it's a pretty mandatory side deck Trapstone if you're playing GB or I mean in the X Saber deck I side it like I think it's like it's just more cold waves
yeah, that's true. It's like a pseudo cold wave. It does run into Book of Moon. Got to be careful of that.
for
But
sure.
it's a strong card. No cap. Speaking of cap, we have Electric Virus. Absolutely cap. Don't play this card. If you play this card, you're, one might say, bitch made. Is that the phrase? I believe.
People
Um,
have said that. People have referred to, yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is targeted hate for dragons. It's very narrow. Obviously, it's insane against dragons. And if we're being realistic, it's probably somewhere up here. Like, probably
If
somewhere up here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing a tribute heavy deck, I mean, the one thing is that, well, I guess the two things are one, it can one for one clear a Drago, which that is good against a lot of decks that would care about siding something like this.
Absolutely.
And also, it's a monster, it's a light, so that has some relevance too. But the only other thing is that like cards like brain control and mind control sometimes aren't always the strongest against dragons because their guys are so big you can't really sync with them.
Yes.
But I mean, being able to just push for damage, and if you are playing any tributes, that's really the only situation I would consider this. I mean,
I like
you
Electric
plant, you can
Virus.
cycle it.
I think it's good because it can take machines also.
That's true.
So if it only took dragons, it would be terrible. But the fact that it can also take like a gadget and you can get some nice utility out of it in other matchups where you maybe take a cyber dragon or something, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you run into problems where you already probably want to side a Cyber Dragon because we've already discussed how good that is. And then
true.
it's like, well, do you really want more coverage for the machine matchup? Maybe
Exactly.
not. And then do you think Virus is that good? Like, yeah, I mean, but anyway.
Anyway, Snowman Eater. I think Snowman Eater is pretty based. And along
Yeah,
this
I think Snowman is pretty based.
along the same lines, Legendary Jiu-Jitsu Master. Great cards.
Yeah, I think Jujutsu Master is a little better. I would even put like Jujutsu Master pretty hot. Yeah, like a little below Master Restrict, I feel like is probably where I think about it.
Yeah, it's right around
And
that same level of power.
Cause yeah, you can. This is like classic 2008, 2009, 2010 side deck card, but you can really can side it in a lot of decks, even some that like are traditionally pretty aggressive, just because as stupid as it sounds, like they don't expect it. It's like
Yeah, it's a great
they
mix up.
people do attack into it. Even me, even I'll attack into Jitsu, and sometimes it just like loses you the game on the spot, like straight up.
Yeah, locks you out, and it's a fantastic mix up. I've attacked into it in like I've summoned a cyber dragon and like attacked into uh like a set what I believe is like Raiko or something, and then I get hit with a Jujutsu Master, and I'm like, oof, it's not
Or you
great.
make the Stardust, and you think you're attacking into a Raiko, and it's like the
Yep,
random Jujutsu Master they brought in, and it's just
yep,
like so
exactly.
debilitating.
And it also has attack points. So in the off chance your opponent's just like low resource, it can go on the offensive, which makes it better than Snowman Eater, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Fog King. Fog King is E tier. Not good. I don't think it's a good card.
I
Obviously,
would put it in Cap. I think it embodies the spirit of Cap pretty well, actually, just because
yeah.
you think it might be good because it's a water and it's a mass restrict on legs. It's often pretty underwhelming. I'll be the first to admit. I feel like in a deck that perhaps played Mother Grizzlies and Salvage, it could be good.
I
But
just don't
I've
see it
heard some
because
difference of opinion on
okay,
that.
well let me just clear some things up real quick. I just don't see it because the decks that like to tribute summon, for example, or like to tribute cards, they get to play this little guy named Treeborn Frog. And let me tell you about Treeborn Frog. He's got attack points, and Fog King does not have attack points or defense
Well,
points.
that's why Keegan, you play it in combination with our next side card, Soul Release.
Oh,
I'm Soul Release right
Soul Release. All right, Q Soul Release. Nice transition. Nice transition.
now.
I think Soul Release is
Thank
pretty
you.
good. I think it's mid, but I think it's pretty good mid. I think it's
I
like up
think
here.
it's better than Lightning Vortex, to be honest. I think it's one of the better mid cards. Or like, I mean, whatever. It could be
Yeah,
worse than Lightning.
I actually think Zombie World's got to go lower. I think it's got to go
Dude,
lower.
no, I liked it.
I don't think
Yeah,
Zombie
Zombie
World's better
World's
than
not as good as
Trapstone.
Trapstone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think
okay.
Zombie World is good.
Um,
But I think Soul
Soul
Release.
Release, I am the chief Soul Release
You
advocate.
love Soul Release, and
Um,
it's
I
never
don't really
done
know why
anything.
I thought that it was so good, but I started siding it.
It's not that good.
Because there was there was this period of time when everyone thinks Edison format's like all about frog decks. And I was playing a lot of frog decks, and I was just like, I just need something to beat them in the long game, which is hard because I mean like no deck can like outgrind frogs.
It's very
Like
difficult. This
you
is true.
can't. Like
Yeah.
maybe Drill Warrior or something, but like there's just advantage and it's too good if the game goes that long and they can avarice and keep having dupe blocks. But soul release can, if you get a big soul release off, you banish, a bunch of Treeborns, a bunch of dupes, swap frogs.
Shut off their salvage, shut off their avarice. It's a fantastic card. It's great against dragons. It's one of the few counters to future fusion. It's great. It's great. I like it. Let's move on. Noblemen of Crossout, I
Yeah,
think, is super ultra based.
I think it is
Unfortunately,
super ultra based.
I don't
Good going
think
second.
Noblemen of Extermination comes anywhere close to that. I think it's probably Cap. It's not the best card.
Yeah,
It's good
very
against
ugly card.
specifically against Gladiator Beasts, but otherwise
I think it's
it's
E. I hate Nobleman.
you hate
I hate
Noblemen.
Nobleman Extermination. Always have.
I think
I don't like that they can chain cards to it.
why would you ever play this over Dust Tornado? Why? It's a real
Just
question.
potential -1 every time I use it. Every time.
Literally, it's the only time you ever want to use this is to hit Chariot, and that's like you got to be really
Sure.
really greedy about it. Same thing with GB Hunter. I think playing cards that specifically target one matchup, like GB Hunter, but are also completely inactive, like reactive cards that don't do anything, are that's like where you don't want to be. You when you're sideboarding, you don't want to be sideboarding something that's gonna chill there in defense position, needs to be attacked into to even do anything, and it's you don't want to be there. Let's be real. Let's be real. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty weak.
Gozen and Rivalry, I think, are super ultra based.
They're two of the most annoying cards to play against or with, to be honest. It's annoying when you have to play around your own Gozen.
Yeah.
Um, but they're just really good. Like in any deck that can side them, which surprisingly is kind of few in this format that like really, really want to side the rivalry. I mean, I guess you have tribal stuff like machines and Blackwings, but even then, sometimes they're not always siding them.
Because they want to be
So,
able
or they're
to.
just siding 1/2 copy.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
think it's worth
they're like
noting.
better master restrict sometimes too.
Oh, absolutely. I was just about to say that it's much better than your average floodgate like Mask of Restrict because Mask of Restrict is completely proactive. You activate it, you get no value. Whereas with Gozen and Rivalry, if they have two or more different types or attributes, respectively, on the field and you flip this up, you're getting removal out of it. You're getting genuine card advantage out of it. And then on top of that, you're locking them. So it's a very scary cards. Really, really not fun to see from most decks. Most decks do not want to see one of these flipped up on them. Skill Drain. How do you feel about Skill Drain? I actually really hate it in this format. I really don't like it. I don't think it's that good at all.
Yeah, I mean, not too many decks can side it. Um, any deck that like really is building to take advantage of it is probably maining it. It's just not really a splashable card. Like in a weird way, I feel like you could probably side a copy or two in like Flamvel, like just
Yes,
on some random shit.
I
But
actually
like
do have
even
it in
then, would
my
that be that
Flamvell
good? Like
side.
I don't know.
Yeah, you have to make a Stardust first for it to even really have equity, and then you're just hoping they don't summon a bigger synchro. So I don't know. I don't love this card in this format. A lot of this format comes down to attack points, which is weird.
Well, you do side it in Blackwing, I think. I think it is a pretty good side there.
Is it though? Is it better than
I don't know.
Rivalry?
I don't
I feel
know,
like you have
dude. I have no
Rivalry.
idea.
You have Rivalry
It's
and you
just
have
locks down
gozen.
Gladiator Beast. I don't know. Like
I
all good
you
stuff.
have oppression for
Bump it
that.
up. It's maybe it's better than Burden Light.
It's better than Fog King, but it's not better than. Well, yeah, it's better than Bird of the Man. Okay, I think we could drop these three down. I think this is okay. I want Neo-spacian Grandmal to be good, but it's just not.
Alright.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's look at something like this. This looks more realistic. Fossil Dyna. Fossil Dyna. This card is
I think it's
based.
based.
Yeah, I think this card
Yeah.
is nasty. It's a sweeper and it's also a Vanity's Fiend. It's a 2-for-1. It's a
I think it's
very good
like
card.
a little worse than Jujutsu Master.
Yeah,
Maybe even a little better than Jujutsu Master, to be honest.
actually, I think it's better than Mask of Restrict and Vanity's Fiend. I honestly think it's the best base card on the list.
Actually, I think it's the best card.
I think it's better because
Yeah.
Vanity's Fiend, like, let's talk about Vanity's Fiend. If your opponent has, like,
That should be something.
five-headed dragon and, yeah, it's first off, it's a tribute summon, which means you have to support that. But if your opponent has, like, five-headed dragon or a Christia or something, and then you draw Vanity's Fiend, you're just like, well, fuck. But you draw a Fossil Dyna, it can actually, like, be the best card in your deck in those instances. I think Fossil Dyna is,
Yeah.
like, it's
It really is very good. I mean,
very good card.
just it's like a I don't know, it can be like a Regeki or a Maneater Bug or I don't know, like
Pretty much,
or
yeah.
the best lockdown card. Like
I think more decks moving forward should just throw this in their sideboard randomly.
really like it is kind of a card that a lot of decks could just be like, fuck it, like I'm
Yeah.
playing the 1/2 Dyna.
Exactly. Trunade, this one is another one of those, like, you should probably be maining it cards, like D-Prison. But some decks do need the extra sweeper post board and don't really want it pre-board for the
Yeah.
fact that it
Decks
can be
that are worried
dead.
about floodgates especially.
Yes. Post board, you're going to see a lot more of these, like, continuous trap type effects. And Trunade does come in. I
Yeah.
think, naturally, this card is bannable. I mean, it's broken as shit. Don't need to say much about it. But as a
Yeah, but
sideboard
weirdly,
card,
like not too many decks side it, and then even when they do, it's a little bit narrow because even against something like Blackwings, it's like a little iffy.
yep.
Because
I-
of pollutes and stuff. The only thing I say about Trunade 2 is like in game 2, like I don't even have a well thought out like theory on this, but a lot of times game 2s are slower and grindier. I mean that
This is
a
always the case.
feeling that I believe, and so a card that is an inherent -1 like Trunade, like a lot of times game 2 is when you're gonna have difficulty just like dropping a huge hand on the board and dealing 8,000. So
Yeah, because your
being-
opponent's going to have
having
their...
them able to just reset all their traps is a problem,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
if you're able to do good stuff that turn.
I don't know. I think as a sideboard card, it's like kind of weird. It's like kind of mid, but I
Yeah,
think
it's kind of weird, but it
as
is
a
good.
card,
It's,
it is
it's
insane.
up there. I like where you had it before. Yeah.
yeah. Chain Disappearance is E tier. I think it's really bad.
Dude, what? No, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
I think it's really bad. I don't think there's a single
Well,
deck
look, I
that
mean, there's like 5 cards on here that you really could be siding in these slots. A couple, I guess, a couple we haven't gotten to yet, but like I think they all kind of have their role. I mean, some are better than others, and I'm really talking about against like Frog and these kind of matchups.
yeah.
But I think Chain Disappearance is a little better than you're giving it credit for. I mean, I think it's just solid mid. Like it's the other picks are probably better, but just as like a removal, I think it's about as good as something like Doomcaliber or Roar.
Ugh, I'm gonna hard disagree. I don't think it's a viable card in this format like at all. But I'll put it up in cap. I'll put it above Skill Drain for you. I think that's about fine.
Thank you for me.
I don't think it's a very good card though. I would not expect to have a lot of success with this card if you bring it in. A lot of the times
I
you're gonna try to
I'll have
hit
a lot of success.
you're gonna try to hit a Treeborn and then they're gonna have enemy controller and then you're gonna get blown out, and it's just gonna feel bad. Or you're gonna try to hit a Debris Dragon that chain something and it's like, oof, it's not a good look. I'll be honest, it's not a good look. It's not a strong card. It does have its applications against some of the weaker decks in the format, but those are decks you should be running over anyway. I don't know. Not a great card.
Good.
Phantom Dragon, E tier, never sees play. Smashing Ground, I'm actually going to put in based. I think this card's
You were really
great.
prepared to put Chain Disappearance where you put Phantom Dragon. Thought
Yeah.
about that for a
Hey, man, I'm
You think those cards
unironically...
are equivalent?
I do think they are. I think Chain Disappearance is honestly in Edison format on the same tier as Phantom Dragon. In 2021, I'm not even
Phantom
capping,
Dragon must be
dude.
pretty good then.
I'm not even capping. I think Phantom Dragon is pretty lit, but it's unplayable.
Phantom
And
Dragon is pretty lit. It's a light, you can honest it.
yeah, it's pretty lit. Let's put it above GB Hunter. It's probably better than that.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Smashing Ground, I think it's better than Mask of Restrict and Vanity's Fiend. I think it's a little worse than Fossil Dyna, but it is fantastic. One of the best cards you can sideboard.
See, I'm just not a Smashing Ground guy. I'll be the first to admit. If it were up to me, you'll be seeing the James alternative tier list edition come out soon.
Oh my goodness.
Where Smashing Ground is
okay.
Cap. Smashing Ground is in cap tier. Changes Disappearance ultra base tier.
You honestly think Smashing Ground is worse than something like Soul Release? Soul Release is ass.
Yeah.
Smashing Ground is a one card out to like,
I just don't even know
whatever you
I feel like Smashing
kill.
Ground on the real, we don't even have to get into this, but I feel like Smashing Ground is like a lazy side deck choice. It's like the same as like Jujutsu when people like had fucking Jujutsu masters and shit and they're just like, well, it kills the card. Like I don't know, it's like what do I really want to 1-for-1 spell remove that much? Like
sometimes I think
what decks and what cards do I want to kill?
This is one of the best cards against dragons, regular Blackwings, and gladiator beasts. I think it just absolutely shines in all those matchups. It isn't out to Christia, but I don't think it's that great against fairies. I do think it's really, really good against the first three decks I mentioned, though. Just killing their anchor monster and relieving that sort of pressure can be fantastic. And then you can start to like play stuff onto your field and.
I mean, it's just worse Deep Prison.
It's just
worse. That's
some aspects.
That's honestly
in some aspects, yes.
That's kind of where I come at it. It's like, well, if I had a deck and I wanted some little extra removal that I bring in these spots, I would just bring like.
The issue with Deep Prison though is that like, it's not as proactive. If your opponent goes turn 1 summon Drago, pass. You can't Deep Prison it on the first turn. You can just smashing it and then like you're in a good spot, So I don't know. I like the proactive nature of Smashing Ground.
I respect Deep Prison. I respect Smashing, and it is one of those cards that I feel like I underrate, and sometimes I lose to, and then I'm like maybe Smashing.
Yeah, prior to EDISON format, it was actually limited. This is the first format that's been at 3 for a really long time, so it's obviously a powerful card in these contexts, or at least Konami thought so. Spirit Reaper, fucking super ultra based. What a great card.
Spirit Reaper is a cool card. It should not be in super ultra based here. I'm sorry.
Really? Oh man! All right.
There's like 1 to 2 decks that I would side it in, and it's kind of cuttable there.
I like it in Blackwings. I like it in Glats. Obviously in Zombies it's good. I don't know. We'll put it below Snowman Eater for now.
In like plants, I would consider siding it.
That's true. It's a debris target. Pretty good.
Sure, I'm fine with it there. I don't think it actually should be there, but it's fine.
Trap Eater, E tier. Do not like this card.
Kind of not a real card.
Yeah, not a real card. Same thing with End of Anubis. Not a real card.
Not a real card.
Yeah. Forbidden Chalice. Forbidden Chalice. Fucking cap.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it does things. Could stop a Shura or boost something over something or stop a Raikou or I don't know, but it's not really very good at doing any of that.
Ultimately, if you don't have Beast King Barbaros in your deck, why are you looking this card up? Right?
Why?
Yeah. Dimensional Fissure.
Why are we looking this card up?
Man, I want to put it.
Dimensional Fissure.
Ooh, I want to put it high.
Probably. I would say above Deep Prison, to be honest. Like.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this card is nasty. I think
nasty. It's.
Goodness.
Out of any of like, if we're talking about, look at the top 2 rows, and we're talking about Rivalry, Gozen, Mask of Restrict, and I guess if you want to count Dyna or something like that. But I mean, Deep Fissure is just like, first of all, faster. It's a spell.
Yes.
And like, it just way more destructive against the decks that it hits, like Lightsworn or plants or fish or frogs, any of that. Just like way more devastating, so much faster, and yeah, I mean it can disrupt you sometimes, but the thing is like decks don't even care. Like I side it in my like Prisma Gladiator Beast. They like you just don't care. It's just so good.
I do think that the only thing that is holding Dimensional Fissure back right now in the current metagame is where the fuck are you putting it? Besides Gladiator Beasts, like what other deck can even afford to play this card?
Yeah, that is a real concern.
Yeah.
I think maybe if people were a little more adventurous and like even sided it in some decks that it doesn't seem very good in, it
Maybe
might surprise them.
dragons. Honestly, it could be fine in dragons. You put out a big guy and then you run over their guys and they don't have their graveyard. It's not the
I
worst.
think it could be fine in a lot of decks, but yeah, I mean, I just if you can use it, it's like an auto include of like 2 or 3 on your side. So
Yes, if you can use it, it's based. Royal Oppression. Oh my god, dude. Just like, what?
I would put Royal Oppression like above Dust Tornado, but it's kind of a weird one, like Deep
Yeah.
Prison, because a lot of decks are maining it.
I actually don't want to even put it on this list because I can't think of a single deck that sides it.
Yeah,
Like, can you? Like, even think?
well, yeah, this is one of the few, even though we did very little preparation for this video, this is one of the few things that I was thinking about earlier today, because like that was my opinion at first too. I was like, I can't really think of a lot of decks that would rather side it than main it, but then I can, because like decks like Flamvel, and even though I think Blackwing should probably be maining too, I could see the argument there. I mean, there are a lot of decks that the way their matchup spreads are situated, or maybe for the predicted meta or whatever, like if they're not expecting a lot of decks that oppression hits, which is a lot of decks. I love oppression, but I just think that if you're not maining it, you should be siding it in those decks. And then
Let's
when you
just
are
put it
siding
back.
it, it's like
Let's just put it number one. It's the best card in the format.
sure,
Like, easily one of the
it's
best cards in
definitely
the
one of the
format.
best cards in the format. Yeah,
But as a sideboard card for the purpose of this list, I think Cyber Dragon is number one. But
right.
honestly, Royal Oppression
It's much
is,
more common.
yes, it's much more common. I think Royal Oppression is the best card power wise. So these two interchangeable. Uh, Figure out what you want to do with those. Thunder King Ryo in the Edison format. We haven't seen a lot of this guy. What do you think?
I mean, I find it a hard argument that Spirit Reaper is a better card than Thunder King Ryo, but I would probably put it around there.
All right, that's fine. I actually think Spirit Reaper is really really good in this format. I've won a lot of stupid games that I shouldn't have won off Spirit Reaper, and I have Donzaluk syndrome bad. If I'm gonna be honest, but yeah, Thunder King's about. I think Thunder King's ability to shut off the gadget decks and to really hose down um, the fish strategy and give you some play against gladiator beasts.
If anything, I would consider dropping down both Ryo and Reaper to the top of mid.
Okay, I could see that. I think Ryo is based. I think Reaper
Okay.
is the best mid card on the list for sure.
Okay. Sure.
But
All right. All right.
Ryo's definitely a based card. I think just solely because of the way it interacts with the fish deck. I think it's one of your best weapons. They can't really cold wave
Yeah,
or
I mean the
trunade through
decks
it.
that it's good against, it just
Yeah.
owns.
Twister, a necessary inclusion, but it's like the definition of a mid card. I feel.
Yeah, it's never going to be that good. It's so narrow, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, Fish is the only deck I sided in, but I also do feel like it's almost a necessary inclusion there. So,
Yeah,
and it can often come up pretty big in the matches that I've played. So,
it's a catch-all. I lost a set to it the other day, so it's something to think about. Pulling the rug, I think, is pretty based. I think it's one of the better cards in the format.
yeah,
There's almost no
I like it a
matchup
lot.
where it's dead. Really, it stops Blizzard out of Blackwings. It stops all the monarchs, of
I would
course.
probably put it at the top of mid again,
All right, I'll put it below Spirit
but
Reaper. Spirit
so,
Reaper, Light Imprisoning and Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, same thing basically. Um,
yeah, I
they're
think
kind of
Light Mirror
cap,
is like,
like
I
low
think Shadow
mid.
Mirror's cap. I have no idea what you bring Shadow Mirror against,
I
but
don't either. I think they're both
but
kind of mid cap.
I think Light Mirror is actually pretty good in the decks that want it. I think it's like a little better than something like Messenger of Peace, or maybe even better than Twister.
I agree. I agree. Its ability to deal with the fairy deck and the Lightsworn deck it's pretty effective. We'll put it up here with Twister. It's kind
It's
of
like all
narrow.
the other floodgates against Lightsworn have their holes, but like Light Mirror just does what it does.
Yeah, it stops all the guys. Can't really ask for much more. Level limit area B, another one of those gravity bind type effects, except it's better because it's a spell.
It's like way better. I think level limit area B is actually pretty nuts, but even I've kind of cut it back, siding it. I don't know. It's kind of a tricky one to rank, but
I'll put
probably
it
just the best. Like yeah, like
that
right
type
there,
of effect,
exactly.
yeah. It's the best of that type of effect. Easily.
For sure.
Royal Decree is based. If you can side it, it's nasty.
I think Royal Decree might be ultra based. It's just it like the decks you sided in. It's basically an auto include, and it does its thing. I mean, it's got its like problems. You draw it and you don't have your monsters. They just still beat you down, whatever. But like
I feel like
that's
you
just
just
Royal Decree.
defined I feel like you just defined a based card. You know what I mean? These cards up here are like fuck.
It's at least
You know what I
dude.
mean? Royal Decree is
Royal
like,
Decree is better than Smashing Ground. I'm sorry.
oh yeah. Yeah, we'll put it up higher, of course, in the base tier list. But I don't think it's like one of the better base cards for sure, but I don't think it's super
Yeah. Well,
ultra
you know, and what
based.
I will say, I mean, even though I just hyped up Royal Decree, I think that people side Royal Decree first off in more decks than they should, and in more matchups than they should.
Exactly.
So people be fucking around with Royal Decree.
Yeah. Super ultra based though, Starlight Road. Card wins the game when it resolves. Usually. It's a very backbreaking card. How do you feel about it putting
And
it?
I would not put it that high because as a side deck card, it's like you're really only bringing against what like Lightsworn and
Blackwing,
Blackwing.
Gladiator Beast. I don't know.
Are you really? I don't know if you're bringing it to hit
I
those
bring it.
values,
I
but
bring it in against Glads. For sure against Glads. Yeah.
I think it's pretty narrow, and I usually end up cutting it for my sides. But
I have honestly not been playing this card much lately, so I don't really have a
yeah,
great
I've
opinion
kind
of
of
it.
cut back on it, but I would probably put it like upper mid, honestly, as a
Ooh.
side card. As a card in general, it's like very good. But
I think just because of its power level, I gotta put it in based. I don't think I can really
all
put
right.
it in mid and be like comfortable. As a sideboard card, yeah, you should probably just main it if you have
Just
it.
main the one. Well, it's
Yeah,
like you
I
just
don't know.
main the one if you need it, and then siding the second. Like, do you ever really want two Starlight Road?
You
Not
don't.
really. A
Let's
lot of
be
decks.
honest, you don't. You don't want the second Starlight
So it's
Road
like you
ever.
have the one, and then like it's not like you're adding that many more traps to your deck that you really want.
Yeah,
Like one Starlight Road when you had zero. You know, I don't know.
I don't
But
know
whatever.
either. Mind Crush is strong. I have a good tournament experience with
I think
Mind
it's,
Crush.
I
I
think
have
it's like between Trapstone and my body. That's where I put it.
same. I think if you are an experienced player in the format, you understand decks and you can make some calls. Mind Crush gets a lot more powerful for you. I think if you're a newer player, maybe avoid this card. You're not going to get some of the blind reads as often. But, you know, give it a shot maybe. I don't know. We've
Good
got
against fish.
we've got 4 left here, the final 4. I think System Down is ass. Why the fuck would you play this when you can play Cyber Dragon? Easy one. The only time this comes up is if you're playing dragons, you want out to machines. That doesn't put a machine in your graveyard, but even then, it's kind of shit.
I would put it at like the top of E though. You know, because like I don't know.
Yeah, it actually does
Whatever.
something. The rest of these cards don't
Yeah,
actually
it does something.
do anything.
Exactly.
Trap Hole's pretty good. I think it's like a fine card.
Grapples, yeah, it'd be hard to argue anything other than mid. I think it's like worse than Light Mirror.
Yeah, it's probably better than Threatening Roar.
Yeah, maybe actually Trap Hole is kind of higher because I mean there are decks that I definitely sided in, and like yeah, it's really only for Blackwing and maybe for Gladiators, but it is fine there, you know.
It does what it's like a Smashing Ground type of effect, but a little worse because it's only on a normal summon. You can't catch bigger
Yeah,
monsters.
it's just good against Blackwing.
It's really good against Blackwing. It really shines in that one matchup, and that's where you want it. 7 Tools of the Bandit and Deck Devastation are the last 2. I think Deck
I think Tools is
Devastation
kind of underrated,
Tools is underrated. I think
but
it's like
I don't.
worse
I
than
think Trapstone.
Trapstone.
I think yeah, it's worse than Trapstone. I was thinking Trap Hole is better than Seven Tools if I'm being honest.
Same.
But
I would put it at the top of Cap. I played it
yeah,
I played it recently to very little success. I played one main deck and one in the sideboard in the last FL, and I was unhappy with both copies. I don't think I'll be
I
playing
feel
this
like
card
you
again.
always think you're gonna do some cool stuff with it, like hitting solemns, you know. But even in decks that like wouldn't otherwise support Trapstone that well, like siding one Trapstone is pretty good.
Yeah, Trapstone is generally just what you want from 7 Tools, but better. And you don't have to pay the life
That's a tough
points,
play. Yeah,
which is real. It's very real. Deck Devastation, if you can side this card, is pretty powerful.
I'm putting Cap. Fuck Deck Devastation.
You don't like
There's
this
like no
card?
deck that it's good in. No, I don't. I want to like it. Every format I want to like it. I think it's cap. I'm sorry. It's
It's
like
a,
definition of cap to me.
it is because you want it to do something. I don't think I've ever had this card do something. I think it's good though. I do think it's good.
I think it's good. I would like it. I would love to think it's good.
What is the home for it though? Like, where are you putting this? Are you
It's
putting it in Blackwings? You already have
homeless card.
Icarus. It's a homeless card.
Top 10 homeless cards.
Top 10 cards that would be badass if they had a place, but they just, you know, maybe
Top 10
they're
cards searching
maybe
for
they're
a
out of a
home.
job right now. You know, no disrespect, but
Unhoused cards.
they're living that van life. You know.
Van life cards.
In any case, this is a pretty good definitive. It actually looks pretty evenly spread now that.
Yeah, at one point it was like really unbalanced, and I was like, oh. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I'm
it
actually
actually.
pretty happy with this. This is a good serious video for the competitive player.
Yeah, a long video. If you guys sat through all of this, thank you so much. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know if there's any cards we missed in the comments. And, you know the vibe. Peace out.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Peace.